welcome to Fright Night. Okay, first Halloween Fright Night episode.
Oh, crap.
Get hype.
Ooh, it's so spooky. Why is it so cold in here? Oh, no, that's just because Nick doesn't use his heat.
Oh, because I have the AC on.
I thought it was a ghost. I thought it was a ghost tingling my spine. It's not.
No, it's just my AC.
I'm just
Cranking.
here in my parka with my goose down jacket on.
I'm wearing
just kidding.
shorts right
It
now.
actually feels great in here.
Yeah,
I'm
you're wearing a button-up right now.
button up, new one, brand new.
Wearing a new button-up. I'm wearing a t-shirt and dirty gym shorts. They're not
Why do they
dirty.
call it a button up if you button it down? You know what I'm saying?
You don't button it up?
You start at the bottom?
No, I don't. I'm not a murderer.
It seems like a huge waste of time and probably a messy time.
It seems like I'm going to call the authorities on you
Yeah.
if you're being like, oh, let me just put this. I don't know why I'm watching my friends put on their shirts, but
Nah, put it on, Johnny. Let's see it.
nah, come on.
Let's see how you do it.
I'm checking it at the door. Be like, hey, why don't you button up this shirt for me? And if they start at the top, I'm like, all right, you can go in. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, trick. I actually buttoned down.
Hey, this guy knows what's up. Anyway,
All right, so this week we are doing Clive Barker's Hellraiser. And what I say about that is a hell yeah, brother.
it's going to be a very breathy episode.
Hellraiser. You can say whatever the hell you want to. I hope somebody knows.
I hope
that.
someone picks up on that. That's
Anyways, so the wonderful Clive Barker, who is a great novelist, short story writer from great old Britain, before this, so into the 80s, he's like a jack of all trades, writing, theater, and then just like, oh, let me just take one of my novellas and make it into Hellraiser, the movie. You're like, oh, okay.
So this is based on a book?
Yeah, the
I didn't
Hellbound
know
Heart. Yeah, he's a crazy writer.
Have you read the book?
I have read that and the Books of Blood, which is a lot of those stories become movies.
So it outlines the does it follow like the
there
what's it
are
called?
differences, and like I said, this was me as a kid versus me now. Like all the Stephen King I read, all the horror I read, like I have a very hard time remembering.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't pull the book is different. But it's the same idea, though. The Cenobites get introduced.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, does it follow more in detail about who they are?
Yeah, it's like that. The whole Cenobite world is so much deeper than the movie.
That's cool. I genuinely did not know that.
Like, there's way more involvement. And then I think the movies kind of veer off into their own thing. And then there's other sequels to those books. But yeah, he has many actual short stories that become books, including Candyman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's a producer on that. That's another one of my favorites.
That one's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should cover that one as well. That's a great movie.
But yeah, he's great. He's a great director. He did Rawhead Rex, which was one of his stories that he actually wrote. This is the first one he directs, but he wrote Rawhead Rex the year before, and then he has like a ton of actual movies. Like he's the writer of 2. And then I think after 2, Hellraiser 2, he becomes just a producer on it. But Nightbreed is another one. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't
That's
seen
based
that one
off his story, The Cabal. And then Lord of Illusions is another one he does. He's a great horror writer.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's yeah, I guess this one was a little later. This was 87.
His book Midnight Meat Train made it into a movie.
That's That's right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So he's pretty awesome. But this movie is awesome, and this also started Pinhead or
Yes.
Hellraiser or the Hell Priest, as he originally was, the lead Cenobite, whatever you want to call him. So when he wrote this movie, I think he was called the Hell Priest in the book, but like he's casted as the lead Cenobite. So Pinhead was actually like a fan made nickname that became what his actual name is. So,
I did think that was cool because I've always known him as like Pinhead.
Yeah, because everyone's like, oh, Pinhead. Most people that haven't seen Hellraiser know who he is, though.
They don't even even in this one, they don't even really.
No, they don't call him.
Yeah.
Pinhead.
Did you? I couldn't remember. Are we going to do the plot overview in this one? I wasn't sure. Like if you
we'll do it quick, but then we'll just kind of talk about Cenobites, the lament configuration, the whole thing.
It's so cool.
It's just a cool ass movie.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's not a slasher, but he kind of is a slasher. Kind of. He's like almost like if you took your traditional slasher and we're like, oh, Freddy Krueger is on the cusp of being a supernatural, like he's in your dreams in the world.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, if we just obfuscate that even more, just make someone that's like just not a real person at all, but he's like on the far end of the spectrum.
He could be. So if that cube could take you to different worlds, he's out there. Freddy Krueger.
So if the gradient is like a realistic Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and then you get to Freddy Krueger in the middle, he's kind of like, ooh, I'm kooky, I'm crazy. And then you have just straight up, I'm like a hell priest. I exist in another world, but I'm coming to your world to fuck you up.
Yeah.
This is Doug Bradley as Pinhead Hellraiser.
He did great. His voice is really cool. So this was a note that I wanted to throw in there. I didn't realize, I think it was when I was like just doing a little bit of research on the movie, that Clive Barker had to make a couple of cuts to this movie because it was rated X, and they basically wouldn't show it. I know that I can't remember. I was trying to look up basically where like what it was banned from some kind of festival or some screening or something like that. But apparently, when she is killing the guys, like when she's bringing them up there, apparently Clive wanted them to be completely naked when she did it.
So it's more sexual.
Yeah. And they were basically like, no, you can't be doing that.
Oh, so, yeah, I'm reading that the nude scene was actually replaced. That's funny.
That's pretty wild, though. But anyway, and then it says that the scene where, spoiler. We'll get into this, but there was a scene later on.
I wonder
that was cut.
I wonder if we can somehow track that down.
What the other cut?
I don't know if it made it into a cut. That's what I feel like I would have known that.
Yeah, I feel like that's like,
I would love to see that. That sounds insane. That sounds like what a serial killer would say. But yeah, I'm intrigued by wild shit like that.
Yeah, about like it is kind of pretty interesting. That's like I feel like people are doing that now with like, oh, they're recutting like it's basically a director's cut of like, we're not showing this, but you can buy it. It was like the original, extra scenes. I know like Apocalypse Now did that. I think didn't The Godfather do that or something like that?
They just recut 3.
They just recut 3.
Yeah. Well, like 2 years ago.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Hellraiser.
Rocky 4 was recut.
Rocky 4. Yeah. But yeah, all right, Keith, take us away. Take us back on the journey.
Okay, so we'll just blow through this. Much of the cut material has yet. Yeah. So I'm looking. They haven't found. So I think someone might have found part of the cut of that movie, but they didn't like.
Oh, you're just doing like a live lookup.
I wanted to see because you said that, and I was like, "Fuck!" I didn't know if I would love to see that in the movie.
I would love to just see
that dude butt naked get murdered for sure. No, nice, but for real, just to say that you saw like what Clive wanted you to see. That's the stupidest thing I ever
wild.
said. That's the stupidest thing I ever said. Anyways, so you get introduced in Morocco to
the two dirtiest fingernails in all of cinema history.
But basically the idea is that this guy's looking for the ultimate pleasure. He buys this. It's
like a cube.
Yeah. It's called the Lament Configuration. It actually is the portal, much like Pandora's box in Greek mythology, the portal between the human world and this like pleasure,
really
pain,
weird,
oh my god,
sadomasochistic.
Yeah, I can't fucking say that word. Sadomasochistic world of pleasure, pain.
Yeah.
Who knows what the hell world, I guess you could call it.
I think there's a really cool line where you actually are introduced to the people. They say, to some were demons, to others were angels.
Right.
And I think that's
they're really just explorers of...
Yeah. But basically, even they're like, we don't even know what
they don't even know what they are anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they basically talk about pleasure and pain becoming one. So anyways, he has this box.
Yeah.
He opens it.
And shit gets weird.
There's like a spinning wooden totem full of ears, body parts all attached to it, and chains. Yeah. That seems to be
all practical effects too.
Yeah. It's all, that's what I like about the 80s specifically, is a lot of the stuff is practical. A lot of the gore, a lot of the stuff is done by like people are just like, oh. That's also why I like the Terrifier stuff that came, because it's back to all that weird,
back to the roots,
simple, insane looking blood, weird goo bullshit that I love.
Show me a CGI horror movie that actually works with its effects, and I'll give you $4.
Do you like? I think the cabin in the woods is kind of all CGI.
All right,
but
that was pretty good.
That movie
Yeah,
fucks.
that was a good movie. All right, fuck. I don't have
dude, I'm just joking with you. I agree with you. I agree with you completely. But yeah, so he gets this thing. The hooks come out. They flay him. They basically rip him apart.
And you're kind of supposed to be confused right now. They
You're
give
like,
no
what the fuck?
like no. The first line of this movie. So this one, I thought the first line and the last line are exactly the same, which I thought was really cool. It says, "What's your pleasure?"
Oh, the guy who's
selling it says, "What's your pleasure?"
Yeah.
And he says like, "Oh, like that box." He's like, I think he says the guy who's selling it goes, "It's yours. It always was."
It always was, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's such a cool opener." Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. So he gets torn apart, and then you flash forward to his brother moving. I think it's
the same house. So he's basically like in this house, and then it's a little bit later. His brother, I think it was like a family.
I'm assuming it's a family house. Then they
Yeah.
have to split up. They're like, I think they're moving in.
Yeah,
but they're figuring out what to do with all this stuff.
Yeah, and the brother, who you find out his name's Frank, he's basically was like a squatter there. So they were like, we got to fucking get all his stuff out. Like they're gonna move in. The main two characters. We didn't go over the cast at all, did we? Yeah.
Well, so Doug Bradley is the lead Cenobite or Pinhead. And then you have Ashley Lawrence. This is her first role. She ends up playing Kirsty, the recurring Kirsty through the Hellraiser series.
Yeah.
And then her father is, I don't really know these people. Andrew Robinson, Julia. His I guess it's her. I don't think it's her real mom. It's like her stepmom. I think.
So they got they basically like got married.
Yeah.
A second time.
Claire Higgins. She is a raging bitch.
Yeah, she is.
She plays a really mean person. She's really good at being
awful
mean.
in this
and
movie.
then Sean Chapman is Frank, the guy we just described that opened up the lament configuration, and it just ripped him to shreds immediately.
And it gets weird.
So, anyways, they can't find him in the house. They assume that he has OD'd or is dead because they find maggots and food and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been there.
They say,
I
bet Frank did one of his famous escapes.
Yeah.
Where he basically like just got
they don't realize that he's actually a part of the house now.
Yeah.
And his like organs are slowly, or it's like his lungs are like.
Yeah. 2 seconds in, I had a note that was the plot is going on for, again, approximately less than 5 minutes. And you see Frank's ripped apart face being put back together in like a little fucked up jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Which is pretty wild. But yeah, sorry. I thought that would.
No, I also like how the opening line is the same, but the movie starts and ends the same. The movie starts, you like see into the box and then it opens.
Yeah.
And then that movie ends with them kind of panning out inside the box.
Yeah.
And then they resell the box.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, you don't realize that he's part of the house, and so when they're moving in, the father catches his hand on a nail as they're like, I don't understand why it takes 3 guys to move a mattress, but they're like really struggling.
And it's like 2 of the scummiest like
they're like
movers
hitting on
like,
the daughter.
Like, is that your daughter? Yeah, she's cool.
She's like, she has her mother. She looks like her mother's like, yeah, her mother's dead. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so this mattress goes upstairs. And
so he rips his hand. He bleeds into the house, like into the ground. The blood gets absorbed into the house, starts filling out this body, which ends up. I think this transformation is awesome.
That was wild.
Where he just starts. He starts turning into this like skeletal, like guttural mass of shit.
I said this is what it looks like when I have to get out of bed on Monday.
So it's like and I think it's awesome because it's like. You can tell it was shot the other way where stuff's getting broken down, but it's like
but they
did
it
all
in reverse
shot.
Yeah.
So it's like the skeleton is like forming, and it only forms part way.
Yeah,
and you realize, oh, he needs blood to survive. So somehow this dude has hacked the fucking the hell world.
Yeah,
because usually they pull you apart and you're dead, but somehow he has fused into the house.
I don't think they explain that. But...
I think if you read the book, I think it goes way more into that. I remember there be more explanation to how that actually works, but yeah. He has figured out how to be scumbag in the real world, and then somehow
in the afterlife, and then the
afterlife / hell world, he has transfused himself into a house. And
he's stealing catalytic converters.
He's like, I'm a cockroach. You can't fucking kill me. So
there's a when he cuts his hand, he brings it. His hand is like pouring blood when he catches it on the nail. He brings it into the room and just goes here and holds out his hand to the girl. That's all he says.
Here, my hand's bleeding.
Here.
Blood is just
here. It's just literally like... So, and there's a continuity issue on this scene, which I thought was cool. His blood
I thought it was cool.
That was sick. So, blood drips from his hand 2 times, 1, 2, in the same exact spot. It pans out. He takes a couple steps forward, and then it zooms in again on the same exact spot, and a 3rd drip happens. So they filmed 3 drips. They moved his character forward, but why did it drip back at the door?
Oh, so you're just that guy who just likes to ruin the fun of anything.
Yeah.
You're that guy. Yeah, you wear glasses. We get it. This is what you do. You're like, oh, yeah, dude? 80s horror? You're a piece of shit,
Yeah, I
Clive
figured it
Barker.
out. So
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your life.
I hope your cousin Bob Barker
I hope you're wearing a diaper right now, buddy.
Anyway, so that was all I got. Great.
I'm just kidding. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, so you also get this flashback where Julia, who's the
stepmom,
you find out that she had an affair with Mr.
With arms wide open.
They did the old Creed dance.
So that was a bit that kind of happened outside of this, was that like if we wanted to censor a joke or like a line, if we said like something inappropriate like fuck or something, they always do like a sound effect. But what if we played the entire With Arms Wide Open song by Creed? Every time the whole song, the whole 4-minute whatever it is, every single time.
This would be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, but he'd be like, man, and then with arms wide open, and then that would finish. Be like, yeah, I can't believe it. And then this other with arms, and that's kind of where that was born from.
Yeah, and if you did like a movie like Eyes Wide Shut, man, that would be a 6-hour podcast.
Be a symphony of With Arms Wide Open. Anyway, so they had an affair.
Frank, so the only reason I'm going to this is because she ends up being his, like, I don't even know. It's almost like a vampire in a blood bag.
Yeah.
Where she's like going out. So she ends up going out to the bar and bringing back these poor saps that she's like, basically like strong arm. It's like a strong arm seducing though. These they're like these weak little men that she's like brings back. She's like,
the one guy's like, I just get lonely sometimes.
She's like, I'm gonna. What's the song called again?
With arms wide open.
I'm gonna with arms wide open you, and you're gonna deal with it.
You're gonna like it.
Get your pants off, basically. And then she just beats him with a hammer each time.
Yeah.
And then Frank as like pseudo Frank, which I kind of ruined it when I saw that his name is Skinless Frank the Monster, and he's played by a different actor. I was hoping it was the same actor, but it's not.
Really?
That kind of pissed me the fuck off. But it's fine. It's fine. It's okay, Clive. We're okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we're fine. Just do better, dipshit.
He also keeps saying,
I'm just kidding.
Frank's little like bloody skeleton keeps saying, "Come to daddy."
Oh, dude, I love it, and it gets creepier.
It gets creepy.
Come to daddy.
Yeah, but he's all
last time he says
like
it,
fucked up and gooey. He's like, "Come to daddy."
The last time he says it is so awesome.
It's very good.
It's so creepy.
So there's a line along the way which I thought was neat. Basically, she sees him for the first time after he like the initial couple of drops of blood like brought him back. And she says, like, what do you want me to do? Like, she was, like, obsessed with him. And basically, it alludes to, like, they, like, basically had, like, the best, let's call it physical times of her life. And so he's kind of playing on that fact of, like, oh, you remember how great we were together, all that stuff. But she's like, I need you to get me more people. And she's like, why? And he said, well, blood got me this far. He's like, I'm going to need more. And I thought that was just a really cool, like, gross line. But anyway, so she's killing people with hammers. Keith, take us away.
So she's smashing these dudes with hammers, and he's becoming more of a flesh pulp, weird Red Skull looking dude. That's kind of like he's like doing the reverse deterioration.
Yeah, he's regenerating.
He's like Benjamin Button himself. Whatever. And then where was I going with this? Oh, so so then
Button.
Yeah, so he's Benjamin Buttoning, and then Kirsty ends up coming home while one of these things is happening.
Yeah,
so
she's the daughter of I think. So there's this whole other plot. Like I don't think did we talk about the daughter much?
She's the Scream Queen.
Yeah, she's always there's basically another plot where her daughter, not the stepmoms. Obviously, we talked about her like when they were moving stuff in. They're kind of getting reconnected. So she's trying to become like more part of their life. So her dad is basically like, go stop over. Go see her. We'd appreciate that.
Tale as old as time, you know.
And then that's where she comes
go meet
home.
the stepmom.
So actually, I'm gonna jump in for a second. I always talk about multiple plots that are going on. The daughter, kind of on the side, is like living her own life, like working her way through the world. And there seems to be a homeless guy that's like always there, eyeing her up. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
So he sees her in an alleyway. Later on, he's in a pet store like that she works at, and he's eating
maggots
and like crickets.
Yeah, crickets. Yeah, that's what they are. They're crickets. Yeah.
And so she keeps basically chasing this guy off, And so then I'll let you get back. And then now she calls her dad, and he's like, go check in on her. Like, she'd appreciate it. Like, try and get closer to her. And then she walks in on a hammering, if you will.
Yeah, so she sees... Does she see...
I think she sees the third
guy get...
Yeah, she sees... Because he whacks him in the head with the hammer. Frank starts to, like, pull the life out of him. She goes in there, and the dude, kind of half alive, grabs her.
That's right.
And then Frank, like, pulls her back in and is like, it's your Uncle Frankie. Ah!
Yeah.
He's like, ah!
But yeah,
it's wild.
So, yeah, it's just a wild mess of shit that happens. Yeah. But, and then you do get to meet the Cenobites. I wanted to talk about them. I like them. Yeah. So you meet them. There's 4 of them.
Well, so the daughter gets hold of the cube after she, like, meets her uncle, throws the cube out the window, goes back down and, like, scoops it up and is like, because it seems like he really wanted it. Like, maybe I can use this in some way to figure out what's going on. So she opens it, which is like a weird puzzle. Do you want to talk about the cube, like how they summoned them again?
Yeah, so I don't know how. I'm assuming you get it just like a kid gets a puzzle box and you just get it. You don't get instructions and you just kind of play with it until you figure out how it opens.
Yeah.
And then if you do it the right way, it opens to this, ungodly world of pleasure and pain or whatever.
Yeah.
So she somehow also figures out how to open it.
Yeah.
And then the Cenobites come to
her and say, like, you open the cube, like, you're fucked, basically. And so she ends up saying, like, no, like, this isn't my fault. Like, do you know a guy named Frank? And I can't remember his last name, but they're
He's still alive.
Yeah. Well, she has a really cool line, which this kind of ties in.
They're the Cottons, so he's Frank Cotton.
Frank Cotton. They have this really cool line at the so we talked about the first line and the last line being the same. It's the same situation of, like, the cube being sold to someone. She goes, like, oh, you guys have done this before, right? And they were like, yep, many, many, many times we've done this. So basically this is like an endless cycle of them just like finding people. They open the cube, they come by, and the Cenobites kind of live on, essentially. Did you want to take it away?
I love the Cenobites.
Yeah.
So when you see them, there's 4 of them. There's obviously Pinhead,
the leader.
And then there's... They don't actually have the names yet in this movie, but the Chatterer, Butterball, and then...
The Chatterer is the guy that looks like he's the fucked up dentist.
And his teeth are...
Yeah, with a big smile. Yeah.
Butterball is obviously the rotund-looking fat one that's... Honestly, he might be my favorite looking one.
Yeah, he's just
they call the other one the female Cenobite. But, like, I think on the action, because they sell these action figures. On the action figure, her name is either Deep Throat or Open Throat.
Yeah, because she has basically
has her throat just like pinned open,
like slit open, basically, which is kind of wild.
Pinned back. It's really crazy.
Yeah,
looking. But those are like your 4 chariots,
the crew,
almost like your 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, kind of coming through. And then you also have the engineer and you see the engineer at one point. It's like this big worm-looking thing that chases her when she's in hell.
Yeah.
That's
so it's when she opens up part of the cube, and it basically she's in these like weird corridor. So she was she's in the hospital after she escapes Frank. She passes out and then wakes up in the hospital and has the cube with her. But yeah, like you said, then we talked about it. It's kind of a similar being to in Big Trouble in Little China is what we were talking about earlier. The big meatball fucking thing.
The eye,
yeah.
It's very similar. Chasing her. It's like an amalgamation of all these different
things,
parts of shit.
Yeah,
that's like the boss. That's like the final boss is that thing.
He's leading the charge. Is that something you find out in later movies?
Well, you kind of get it at the end of this movie.
Okay,
but then I think it's you'll see more of it in the sequel, and then I think in the whole, it's almost like Star Wars where it's like a whole spread universe of fucked up weird
things. Yeah. So I mean they're awesome. The Cenobites, they're great. I think the female one, so her and Pinhead are the only 2 that actually talk.
Right. Well, Chatter I think is trying to talk.
Yeah, he's just like hanging. Yeah.
It's just like teeth are like just moving them.
And I think the other one's just too fat to talk. So yeah, you see them and they kind of explain, like I said earlier, she was like, what the fuck are you? And they're like weird, like to some were angels, to others were demons. He's like, but really we're just travelers of another dimension where the line between pleasure and pain has blurred.
Yeah.
And that's basically like, I think they end up saying like we could like they have a line like in, I guess it's a couple minutes chronologically, but they're like, we're going to show you like the sights you never would have seen. Like and so you can tell that they're like, to them, they enjoy doing this to people. And like, it's just this whole fucked up cycle.
Yeah, he has
like,
so many one-liners.
Yeah.
Because that line is, we have such sights to show you.
Yeah. So she ends up saying like, well, that guy Frank, like he escaped. And they're like, no shot. So she basically strikes up a deal like they're going to let her go if she can prove and get him to admit that he escaped them. And like admit that like, yep, I am who I am. I'm here now. And then basically the movie keeps going. So she goes back to the house to confront.
Yeah. But at one point though. Oh wait, no, is this the dad's still alive at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spoiler. Yeah. So the dad's still alive at this point.
Well, so the dad comes back to the house.
Yeah.
To find out what's going on, and Julia's like, "Oh, I think she's like, I have so much to tell you, or something."
Yeah.
And then he finds out that Frank is
a weird
fucked up weird skeleton
like,
thing.
Yeah.
So Frank kills him.
Yeah.
And then starts wearing his skin.
Yeah.
So when Julia comes, or when Kirsty comes home,
it's like, ooh,
oh, it's my dad, but she can tell like something's off. And it's like, oh, okay, you have blood behind the ears, and your skin is just placed on perfectly over your face.
This isn't.
Oh wait,
weird.
this isn't my dad.
So he actually gives himself away. She's like kind of skeptical when she comes home, and then he says, "Come to daddy," in the same way.
No, but this time he's like, "Come to daddy."
Come to daddy, and you're like, that was
the
a weird,
creepiest thing.
But she basically realizes like, oh shit, no, this is actually my uncle in disguise, as master of disguise. Do you think Frank is? Have you seen that movie, Master of Disguise?
Dana Carvey?
Yeah. Could Frank be Pistachio Disguisio, the main character?
Oh my god,
that's a hot take, isn't it?
It could be.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Have you ever heard of the Aphex Twins? They're like a weird, like industrial kind of. They have a song called "Come to Daddy," and it samples this. Like,
that's pretty wild.
It's all just like crazy,
like
wild, industrial gothic kind of nonsense. It's awesome, but
yeah, that's unsettling.
That's from this.
Great. The more you know.
Yeah. So
then she's beat. They realize like, oh, it is Frank. They end up in that fucked up room originally that they like the whole movie started in. I think that's basically where he's like, yep, like I'm not your dad. Like I was here. Like he was dead like long before I got home or whatever. He's basically saying like my brother was like just a shell of a man. Like it's better off that I killed him. And I think at that point, doesn't that? I guess they come back, right?
They're back and they're like, oh, I wanted to hear it from your voice.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they're like they basically punk him.
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher's up there,
and he's like, fuck.
He's like, oh, dude.
So they're
like my friend, you've been kicked in the nuts.
Yeah.
And then,
so he tries to kill Kirsty at one point,
and
ends up killing.
The stepmom.
Yeah, just stabs her, sucks her soul out, so she's dead. Julia's dead. And then, so with the same knife, like, they're in the room. He's like, oh, okay, what do I do? The column's spinning, the chains are out, and then he goes to try to stab Kirsty, and then the chain just
grabs his arm.
Grabs his arm. I guess it hooks in his arm, and then just hooks all whole body, and then hooks all his face, and then you get the Jesus wept.
And he starts laughing, like right before.
Yeah, and then it just rips him completely to shreds.
Shit. Oh, that's such a brutal
cool
scene.
And then she somehow figures out in this time how to reverse the lament configuration, basically send them all back. Which
she tries to escape, and they're like, "Where you?" And then the girl, like the what's her name, the Cenobite, the female one, she's like, "We were just having like I know we said we would let you go, but like we're just having fun." Like with you now, so like I don't think we're gonna be sending you back. So yeah, she reverses it and basically reconfigures the cube and like erases them one by one.
Yeah, she almost just like starts spinning it the other. She starts rubbing her finger the other way, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And she basically
this is all I had to do.
She like basically catches them one by one like the Ghostbusters, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool."
This movie
except
really
for Butterball, Butterball gets destroyed by a bunch of wood.
Yeah, he's fucked. Dude.
And then this is where you get the engineer again as like a crazy weird almost like a haunted house monster that's like it's like I'm gonna get you.
And then she does the old cube routine on him.
Yeah, she cubes everybody.
And then This movie kind of ends up. Is it cool if I wrap this one up just because I called out the original?
Give a fucking shit, dude.
Oh my god.
Do whatever the fuck you want.
Great. So then they end up taking the cube to, I guess it's like a hobo fire. It's where it is. And then Keith, actually, you bring us home. What happens next?
Well, she throws it on the fire, like, oh, we're done with you, kind of like, this is the end of this.
Like, as at Point Break, like, he's not coming back.
Yeah,
Badger
almost like you're like, okay, cool.
Cube
so
in
it's
the
in the
hobo
fire.
fire.
But then all of a sudden, the hobo,
who's been tailing her.
He looks like, who does he look like? He looks like, oh my god, I'm trying to think of, it's a Happy Madison character.
Let me look him up. I don't know.
He looks like,
what is his character in this?
I think he's just the
hobo in Hellraiser. Like,
maybe he's Steve. I don't. No, Steve's the boyfriend. No, I don't know.
Yeah,
he's not even listed here.
I'm trying to just pull up a picture of him. No, he looks like the Messin' with Sasquatch commercials. Remember those? Messin' with Sasquatch.
Oh yeah.
He looks like Sasquatch, and that's basically it.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we boring you?
What?
You're yawning in my home.
Oh man,
Just kidding. Yeah, so so the hobo comes up and basically he walks directly into the hobo fire.
And you see him like glaring through the fire, and you're like, oh, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden he just turns into
a pterodactyl.
Yeah, he just turns into a skeletal dragon thing.
Yep.
And then flies
Takes
off with
the cube, flies away.
And then it cuts to the final,
the same exact table with a different guy, not Frank this time, and he says, "What's your pleasure?"
So yeah, they're like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, you can make a sequel to this, I suppose."
Yeah.
But yeah, have you seen the sequel, Hellbound?
No, I have not.
Oh yeah, I like it.
We'll have to do. We should do another Fright Night covering some of these sequels. I didn't realize this was a book. I kind of want to.
The Hellbound Heart. It's like a novella. It's like 180 pages or something.
Yeah, I would like to read the book.
But yeah, the sequel to this one is awesome. I actually watched there's actually 11 Hellraiser movies.
Oh, shit.
I watched all of them last year. I went on this binge of like, I wanted to just hit the franchises.
Yeah.
I did that.
You watched all of them?
Brutal. 1 and 2 are insanely awesome. 2, I think, is cool because you get more of this stuff. You get more skinless men.
Yeah.
Skinless people in general. I think Julia's skinless in that one somehow. Yeah. And then the Cenobites are way more in it. There's more of them. There's more just like...
I almost wonder if people saw the first one and were like, "Oh, we want to see the Cenobites a lot more."
It's almost like, to me, it's almost like you have Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 1 was like I think this has more gore than Evil Dead does, though.
Yeah.
But I just love all the gross, bloody, disgusting stuff. I love it. I love it. And I just love how dark and like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just dark and like, I don't know. It's just a dark movie.
It's a fucked up dark movie.
Yeah. Like, I just like gothic, weird, dark.
It seems so at the end of it. I think it's like kind of this thought that I had when I watched the end of it sums up. I guess these types of movies, when the daughter is walking out of the house after just seeing like her uncle wearing her dead dad's skin gets pulled apart by hooks and like blows up into a bloody pulp, and then she just like walks out and you just have to assume that she's fine after that movie. Like,
her and her boyfriend are just like,
these are no-win situations. People are alive, but you're just like, okay,
I guess we're gonna restart.
Yeah, like Scream, the sequels, it was like, oh, someone killed someone, like a real person slashed someone, and like the killer's out there, and you're like, oh, that's frightening. But you're like, no, there's another dimension. And I watched a man who's impersonating my dead dad get ripped apart by hooks after he said Jesus wept in my attic.
Yeah, and these people, the other beings are just like these
are
wild, like leather-clad monsters.
They're out of the Matrix.
Yeah, I just
like a
that.
weird Matrix.
Throw some metal, throw some spikes, throw some leather on there. I'm in.
I'm done. That's good.
Give me an industrial soundtrack. I'm in. Dude.
You're sold.
Give me turn the light. I just like dark, weird, twisted, weird
stuff,
fucked up shit. Whatever.
That's good.
It's good.
So should we wrap up this our this little episode of Fright Night? Did you have any final thoughts about this one?
Nah, it's just awesome. And,
I thought this one was cool.
I just really like this one. I always go back to it.
Yeah. As just like a super solid one. So I didn't do the box office. This one actually did pretty well, surprisingly, in the box office. But yeah. All right. Should we cut it?
Yeah.
I guess all that's left to ask is, what's your pleasure?
Oh.
Until next time.